54th GST Council meeting has got great relief for Indian exporters when we talk about Rule 9610 and the hurdles which the Indian exporters have been facing. We've been arguing more than 50 such matters at different levels. And for us personally, it's a great relief when our clients and industry gets relief because of these changes. The first and the foremost thing what we would want to do in this live webinar is to acknowledge the efforts of the GST Council and the Honorable Finance Minister of India. She has acted in the best interest of the country and with an intent to reduce ambiguities, provide tax certainty, and provide huge incentives to the Indian exporters. With that background, before we go to the broad announcements of the 54th GST Council meet with respect to Rule 9610, let us broadly understand that what is this scheme of 9610, what was the problem, how it was implemented, and what are the challenges, and what is the court update. So let us take a pause and go back to what Rule 9610 is all about. As far as Rule 9610 is concerned, I think there are a couple of dates which are very important and you must note it down. The first date is 23rd of October 2017, when this Rule 9610 was implemented in different forms and with certain amendments and retrospective amendments. The second important date is 9th of October 2018. And why is this date relevant? Is because on this date, two notifications came into play on the same day. Notification 54 of 2018 and notification 53 of 2018. Notification 54 of 2018 makes the provisions with respect to Rule 9610 prospective. So which means the rule as it stands today is completely governed by notification 54 by 2018. As far as the period between 23rd of October 2017 to 9th of October 2018 is covered, it is covered by the notification 53 of 2018, which came into effect on 9th of October 2018, but with a retrospective effect. So which means the period prior to 9th of October 2018 is governed by notification 53, whereas prospectively from this date, notification 54 comes into play. So now let us understand what is this notification 54, which governs prospectively and the broader and a larger period under 9610. And I will read that down to you. 9610 reads, the person claiming refund of integrated tax paid on export of goods or services should not have. And the entire rule is divided in two parts, A and B. So A is with respect to received supplies. So the person claiming refund must not receive supplies in terms of notification 48 of 2017, notification 40 of 2017, and notification 41 of 2017. So the goods must not be received under these concessional schemes, these three concessional schemes, by the person who claims benefit of the integrated tax. What is the second part of the notification? The second part of the notification says that the person claiming refund of integrated tax must not have availed the benefit of two schemes under notification 78 of 2017 and notification 79. Most of the problems, as far as we have seen, are related to the advance authorization scheme, which is covered by notification 78. So if a person has availed the benefit of advance authorization scheme, then what happens is that Rule 9610, as far as notification 54 is concerned, becomes applicable. Now, what happens if this becomes applicable is, if you have filed the refund claim, or you have claimed the refund of the integrated tax paid on export of goods, then one of those two options which are available to you as per the provisions of the Act, the rebate and the refund, what they are popularly known as the unutilized portion of the credits claiming back, is never a problem. But on the second scheme, this you could not avail if you have availed the benefit of this advance authorization benefit under 78 notification or any of those other four schemes as well. Now, how is 54 notification different from 53? Remember, 53 came into effect from retrospective effect. And how is 53 different? 53 is worded like this. 53 says the person claiming refund of integrated tax paid on export of goods or services should not have received supplies on which the supplier has availed the benefit. Now, which means that if your supplier has availed the benefit, then you would not get the benefit from that intervening period from when it started until this period of 9th of October 2018. And whether this notification 53 of 2018 is manifestly arbitrary because the benefit has been taken of those notifications by your supplier is to be tested before the courts. So this is broadly the scheme of the ruled 9610 for the prior period and for the prospective period. Now, there is one more important aspect which needs to be seen, and this is notification 16 of 2020. Notification of 1620 came into effect retrospectively from 23rd of October 2017. And why is this notification and explanation important? Let's just read it down. For the purpose of this rule, the benefit of notifications mentioned therein shall not be considered to have been availed only where the registered person has paid IGST on inputs and has availed exemption of only basic customs duty under the said notification. So this was a great relief which came for the industry subsequent to our petitions. And the reason is that there were a lot of importers who had paid basic customs duty but have taken benefit of IGST. So a lot of those clients, lot of those importers got significant relief due to this explanation. And at that point of time, again, GST Council took a pragmatic view to create a distinction that leads to a more fundamental aspect of manifestly arbitrary. While all of this was given in the larger interest of helping the Indian exporters, the question which arises is now there is a distinction between the IGST and the basic customs duty. Having said that, a lot of importers, exporters got the benefit because of this explanation. And I reiterate that this notification also came into effect retrospectively from 23rd of October 2017, which means today, as we speak and argue before different courts, the only issue which is relevant is with respect to the IGST exemption, which may have been availed under the advance authorization scheme. So this is broadly the scheme. Now, before we move further, one very important aspect before we go to the 54th GST Council meet is to understand the provisions of Rule 86 Subrule 4B. And this 86 4B was inserted by notification 14 of 22, and this was inserted with effect from 5th of July 2022. Please note this date. This is very important date. This got introduced from 5th of July 2022 because a lot of my readers and followers have asked this specific question in light of these recent GST 54th council meet announcements. And this is very critical. 86 4B reads like this, and I will read only the relevant part of it. Where a registered person deposits the amount of erroneous refund sanctioned to him sanctioned to him under sub-rule 3 of Rule 96 in contravention of sub-rule 10 of Rule 96. And what sub-rule 4b says is along with interest and penalty. So if the registered person deposits the amount of erroneous refund along with interest and penalty wherever applicable, so there are two elements to it. One, the sub-rule provides that interest and penalty must be paid. Two, it uses the phrase wherever applicable, and that's what is important. Whether in revenue neutral situations, wherein these provisions are manifestly arbitrary, where there are retrospective amendments, and so on and so forth, which we have taken to different courts, are these actually applicable? Now, what happens as per this sub rule is that the recredit is permissible with respect to that amount which I have filed or which I am ready now to pay. So if a registered person deposits the amount of erroneous refund and along with that deposit of erroneous refund, he pays interest and penalty, he will be eligible to claim the recredit of the amount of the refund which was sanctioned to him. Now, please understand, Rule 86 4b is with respect to the recredit when you would want to pay that refund and take a recredit. And it is slightly different from the way this circular 233 has come in, the recent circular. And what are the differences? Now we'll go, after covering the scheme, let's go to what the GST Council 54th Council meeting provides. The best decision, the most pragmatic decision which has been taken, and we again want to thank the Honorable Finance Minister and the GST Council, is that they have proposed to omit 9610, and that is a big relief for industry, and we would call it as a big win for us, because not only in Cosmo Films versus Union of India, which we are arguing before different courts, but several courts all across the country, I think the message was very clear that this Rule 9610 is manifestly arbitrary. It creates hurdles, it creates problems, it is illogical, etc. And I think the pragmatic solution has been provided by the GST Council in its 54th GST Council meet to prospectively omit 9610. So, in terms of the announcement, the first and the foremost, most welcomed announcement is with respect to omission of Rule 9610. The applicability of Rule 9610 in future will not be applicable. It is to be seen that from which date this omission happens to 9610. So that is the brilliant news as far as industry is concerned. The second aspect of the announcement is with respect to regularization. And this regularization is very important aspect, not only in terms of the rule which we had read, Rule 86 4b, which is for recredit, but also what happens to regularization. And it is very important to see that the circular which provides for regularization does not talk about payment of penalties. So we will see that so this circular provides the scheme and then very categorically says that whether refund of integrated tax paid on export of goods by a registered person can be regularized, which situation? At a later date, the said person has either paid the IGST and the compensation cess along with interest. Please note, there is no mention of any penalty here. It only says along with interest on such imported goods, or is now willing to pay such IGST and compensation cess along with interest. Which means that if such a person has already paid or is willing to pay now, subsequent to the circular, he can regularize it. He can regularize the entire situation. And how he can regularize it is, we will go to paragraph 2.3. It clarifies that where the inputs were initially imported without payment of IGST under those two notifications it mentions, but subsequently, now these are the keywords, please note down. This is paragraph 2.3 of this circular. Subsequently, IGST and compensation cess on such imported goods are paid at a later date along with interest. No penalty. Along with interest, and the bill of entry in respect of the import of the said goods is got reassessed through the jurisdictional customs authorities to this effect, then the IGST paid on export of goods refunded to the said exporter shall not be considered to be in contravention of the provisions of Rule 9610. Now, let's take a pause again and go back to analyze certain of these provisions. Rule 86 4B, which came into effect, I had mentioned, with effect from 5th of July 2022, it talks about both applicability of interest and penalty wherever applicable. Please note, that is for recredit when you opt to pay the amount of the refund which you have got, and then you want to take a recredit of that. That is Rule 86 4B. Now, this clarification says that you have not contravened the provisions of 9610 in case of two situations. One, IGST and compensation cess are paid at a later date. So you pay that at a later date. And then you get your bills of entry reassessed. So if you have paid it along with interest and have got it reassessed, then there is no contravention. The moot point which will have to be seen is what happens to the penalty provisions now. Because here, what you are doing is you are paying the IGST and compensation cess on such imported goods. So there are two set of payments which you could opt. One is with respect to those imported goods. You pay tax on that imported goods now, and then you pay tax and interest. This clarification comes into play. You get your bill of entry reassessed, and there is no contravention, right? Rule 86 4B is slightly different because it says when he deposits the amount of erroneous refund sanctioned to him along with interest and penalty, then a recredit can happen. Now, whether Rule 86 4B will come into play also with respect to the amount which I pay here, as far as recredit is concerned, is to be seen whether I need to pay penalty or whether the authorities will impose penalty on me or not. Having said that, what we are arguing before courts is that in revenue neutral transactions, these penalties will not be applicable. Now, with also the broad announcements by the GST Council meet, which shows that prospectively these will be omitted, I don't see there is any need to worry about the interest and penalty, because I think there was a devil in the provision which has now been rectified, and there are judicial precedents of Supreme Court which says that if the provision was like this and then in the intervening period like this and then it got amended, so what was not intended came in the intervening period, and hence it was important, and hence it is important for us to analyze these provisions by way of these different provisions and clarifications. Now, this leads us to our next part, which and a lot of my readers and participants have reached out to ask what is with respect to the court update. on this. And let me tell you, the first writ petition which was addressed by Gujarat High Court in case of Cosmo Films versus Union of India, there was an order of Gujarat High Court on the validity of Rule 9610. Gujarat High Court admitted the review against that order which was passed, and we have already argued at length where predominantly on most of the points the court was apparently convinced to understand these issues pragmatically, and to that extent we hope that there will be an amendment to that order. There are lots of writ petitions which will see the fate once this Cosmo film matter is decided, and hence the test of the constitutional validity is the result is about to come at any point of time, and we are ourselves waiting with a bated breath for this result to come. But while we are waiting for this result on the constitutional validity, I think the GST Council announcements provide great hope, and with a lot of pragmatism, this implementation will help the Indian exporters. Now, let us understand that what could be the approach and the way forward. The different provisions today provide for regularization and recredit. If you feel that you would want to take lesser risk as far as the applicability of Rule 9610 is concerned, I think regularization is one way by which you could regularize, pay interest, under protest. Don't leave your right with respect to the validity of Rule 9610. If the rule is held to be ultra vires, or if the court would hold at some point of time that these are revenue neutral situations, these schemes were issued in public interest, and the broader objective of these schemes was to provide benefit to the Indian exporters in terms of the WTO regulations, etc. And India wanted to be in sync with those regulations. Then I think in the broader light and perspective, the SSEs may get the benefit for the interest, etc. as well. But if you do not want to take risk, please get your bills of entries reassessed, get it regularized, pay interest, and keep your claim with respect to refund of that interest. So the clock stops, the risk reduces. Whereas on the other hand, if you feel that you would want to challenge on the validity till the very last breath, then do not pay any interest. There is no need for regularization. The call is, of course, absolutely yours. You will have to take a business decision to decide whether regularization at this stage is important and will affect your provisioning in the books and contingent liabilities, etc. Another important aspect is that lot of these developments may result in changes in accounting policies, tax policies. In fact, we have also seen that these important changes, both in terms of how the proceedings are going, you need to make appropriate disclosures. These could be appropriate disclosures in your accounting, from your accounting perspective, creation of a provision, creation of contingent liabilities, responding to SEBI, giving proper response to SEBI and keep them updated, especially for the listed companies. I think these are important aspects which must be taken into consideration. And with this GST Council meet, I think it becomes necessary to intimate to your regulatory authorities, statutory authorities, etc., with respect to this. Wherever there are already appeals or the adjudication process is on, it is important to bring on record important changes in law, important changes in approach of the GST Council, how courts are reacting, what are the changes which are happening, how Gujarat High Court has given some interim orders in various cases, and things like that. Those constant changes by way of updating the tax authorities, your appellate authorities, your adjudication authorities, or even to the court, those must be made proactively now so that we disclose everything right on time. We must also do number crunching so as to understand that what is the impact, how the interest would be calculated, how much credit I had, what I would take as recredit, whether it will be viable for me to pay tax on the inputs, etc., and how much that computation is coming, how the reassessment of bill of entry will happen. Because this issue is very close to us, you can always reach out to us on my email ID, abhishek@rastogichambers.com, abhishek@rastogichambers.com, or alternatively at contact@rastogichambers.com. In case of emergency, you can reach out by way of a WhatsApp message on my personal mobile number 9820241489. Please drop a message and I will revert back to you for this important issue, which is very close to my heart. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and we will come live again and again before you with respect to important issues and keep sending you videos so that you are updated about the recent changes. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video if this was useful.